Today we are going to cover how to monitor blueberries, why to monitor blueberries, and the strategies. Caroline, why is it important to monitor blueberries?
So it's important to monitor your blueberries to detect pest populations when they're low, and it's important to monitor them regularly so that you can notice changes in pest populations over time. It's important to consider what has been sprayed in the field recently. You want to look at the label of the pesticide that you last sprayed to make sure that you're observing the re-entry interval.
How do you decide which rows are you going to monitor?
So you're going to look at different rows in your field every week. And you want to make sure that you're covering some of the outside rows and some of the inside rows because some pests will be moving into the field from the outside of the field and others will be present in the interior of the field.
And how you are monitoring blueberries that have different age? You have different strategies to move in the field?
So for different ages and different varieties, we make sure we go through every section of the field independently.
How many bushes would be a good number when monitoring blueberries?
I would recommend looking at about 2 bushes per acre, but you're going to sample down the row at evenly spaced intervals. So if your field is 5 acres, I'd recommend that you're looking at a minimum of 10 bushes in your field. So let me show you how I would monitor a blueberry bush. First of all, I look at 10 shoot tips, and I'm looking at the 10 youngest growing shoot tips, the underside of the leaves, and about the top 10 centimeters, and this is for aphids. So I would inspect all the leaves on that shoot tip and then move on to another one. So after looking for aphids, I then look at 10 shoot tips for blueberry midge damage, and midge cause the tips to turn brown like this. So again, you're looking at the 10 growing tips, the pale green tips, all over the bush, and you're keeping track in your head of out of 10 how many of the shoot tips were damaged by midge. So then I move to look at the flower clusters or berry clusters depending on the time of the year, and I look at 10 of these per bush. In the flower clusters, I'm looking for things like leaf rollers. Once the berries are here, I'm looking for spotted winged Drosophila larvae and a number of fruit rot diseases. So this is when you might see botrytis, alternaria fruit rot, anthracnose fruit rot, mummyberry. This is an anthracnose infected berry. You can see that there's some orange coloration on the surface of the berry. Those are the orange spores. They look like tiny droplets of liquid. And typically anthracnose infected berries are soft to the touch. And then finally I look for weevil notching on the bush. So I bend down and look at the base of the bush, the leaves at the bottom here, for notching which may have been caused by black vine weevils or strawberry root weevils. I also stand up and just take an overall look for any other notching that may have been caused by green immigrant weevils. Here is a good example of what weevil notching looks like. It's important to make a note of beneficial insects because they can help keep aphid populations under control. So here we have some aphids that have been parasitized by a parasitic wasp. And so these are no longer a pest, but they're a beneficial insect. And then in between here we have some blueberry aphids that are pale green. They can also be pale orange, and the winged aphids will be black. And then down on this leaf here, we have another beneficial, which is a lacewing egg. It's a little green egg on a little slender stalk. And again, when that hatches, that will feed on aphids. So with all the pests, I'm recording the number of shoot tips or number of berries that have insect or disease damage or presence. And the purpose of this is so that you can compare numbers from week to week to see if pest levels are increasing or decreasing. As I'm walking through the field, I'm just scanning across the rows to see if I can see any bushes that look like they're off color or have dead branches. And if I see any of those, I will go over and look at them more closely. So when I find a bush, such as this one, that looks a little different than the neighboring bushes, I will take a sample and I will send the sample to the BC Ministry of Agriculture for virus testing. So the thing that stands out to me about this bush is that there's a lot of dead shoots that are still attached. This one, you can see it died when the flowers were there, so it had some dieback back in May. And I'll just demonstrate how I take a sample. I typically take a piece of flagging tape and I write the date on it, today's date, so I know when it was sampled. and I'd write a code on it so that I can identify this bush. I usually tie the tape to the bush in some place where I can find it again. And then I take a sealable bag and I write the same date and code on the bag. This bag is going to go to the lab, so I need to be able to trace it back to this bush. Into this bag, I'm going to put 10 healthy leaves. So even though there's dead tissue, I don't want to collect the dead tissue. I want to collect the healthy tissue that is close to it. I then seal the bag and take it to the lab and wait for my results to find out what is wrong with this bush. One of the most important things to have is a pen and paper to record pest levels as you go through the field. A vial and some sealable bags for collecting samples in the field. Guides to help you identify what you're seeing. A camera to take pictures. A hand lens, this is a magnifying lens. Flagging tape and a permanent marker. This is a contact fruit fly trap, which we bait with apple cider vinegar to trap spotted winged Drosophila adults.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for coming and showing us how to monitor blueberries.
You're welcome.